Hey, this is Karen Coach's Corner Chats, and on today's episode, I've got BJ Durel. BJ, where are you at and what are you up to?
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I'm right here in Cincinnati. Do training locally, Cincinnati, Kentucky. I guess would be Southeast Indiana as well. Right now, just enjoying the weather, enjoying the time that I can get on the pitch with the players, and enjoying time with the family.
So, how does are your trainings like group, individual, teams? What kind of things do you work with?
So, kind of all three. A lot of one-on-one private trainings. I also do quite a few group trainings, small group trainings during the week. And then depending on time of year, mainly in season, I'll have a couple parents or coaches hire me out to come do a couple sessions for their teams as well.
So, and I know just from watching your social media and all that type of stuff, you work with some pretty high level kids that want to go to that next level of going from like club and high school to college and what have you. What's one of the things that you've done really well that you think has brought those types of players into your mix?
I think for me, the thing, I think the reason most players come to me is because the training that I do is very much game related. Um, there's a lot of trainers in the area, really good trainers in the area that will focus on shooting specifically, or, they'll focus on certain aspects or certain techniques of the game. What I like to focus on, and I think this is why a lot of the players come to me, is I like to focus on the mentality and field of vision more than anything. I think that is a soccer trait or soccer skill that's, in my opinion, underdeveloped, honestly, and a lot of athletes these days. And I think that's why a lot of them come to me. The training sessions that I do we'll go hard for a minute, we'll take 30-second rest. We'll go hard for a minute, take 30-second rest to try to get that game simulated heart rate going, to get that game simulated, I guess, feeling of the game itself involved as well.
So it's almost like you're giving them an opportunity to add little tweaks that are just going to be that extra little nudge to make that 1%, 2% better. That's going to equal out to better play on the soccer pitch.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yes.
So before you got to, how long have you been doing this type of training? What have you?
I've been doing it for 12 years. Well, I guess a little over 12 years now. But DFA has really only been around for about 10 and a half years.
Yeah, because I've noticed you've got like your own academy, and I see the gear and all that stuff is really, really, really cool. The things that you do. Do you have your own like base area that you work out at, or do you kind of bounce around from field to field and what have you?
So it kind of bounces around, to be honest with you. There is because I have clients from Southeast Indiana, Kentucky. I've got a couple clients from Lexington that drive in. I got a couple clients who play in Indianapolis that drive in. So I try to meet people when possible. Most of my clientele kind of resides in the northern eastern part of Cincinnati. So I can pretty much go to one or two specific spots for them. But if I have some of my players who are driving in from Indianapolis or Lexington, I try to meet them, at least meet them closer to where they're coming from.
Right on. And so before you got into all of this, were you like a full-time coach and doing the whole like I'm coaching a team and all that type of stuff prior to doing this?
So I did coach club, not prior. I mean, I've been doing this longer than coaching. But I did spend the better part of a decade coaching club in high school.
And so
So I have done that before.
what's the so do you enjoy one more than the other?
I really do enjoy the training aspect of it, honestly. I think, don't get me wrong. I love coaching. I love being able to take a team and being with them 3 days a week, and then, having games or tournaments on the weekends. I absolutely love coaching. And I only got out of coaching because our family was growing with the kids. But for me, having that ability to have that connection with the players in that one-on-one situation or those small group situations, and I think it allows me to get to know the players a little bit better than I would if I have 17 or 18 on a roster. I mean, as a coach, you still get to know your players very well. But I think when you're in those individual or small group environments, it kind of brings out a little bit deeper relationship. And I think that's one of the things that I really try to hone in on, because I think that's what allows the players to really trust the trainer, trust the coaches when they have that connection. And that's, in my opinion, that's when you really start to see the development happen between the player and the coach and the player's abilities.
So I'm assuming there's a lot of communication between you and the players as to like how was your last game? What were some things that went well? What knocks or whatever that you might have that you're dealing with. What are your big goals? Like where do you want to be in next year and 2 years from now? So it sounds like you're constantly having that feedback loop with the players.
Yes, I do. Even today, I had a small group session. We had 6 players this afternoon, and 2 of the players, they asked me if I'd take a look at their game film whenever they send it to me. I'm always open to looking at game film. I love watching game film. Even players I don't train, I'll still have parents ask me if I'll watch their game film just to give them feedback, and I love doing that stuff. Usually I'm in my office around 4:15, 4:20 in the morning, and I'm watching game film for hour and a half, taking notes, and really trying to hone in on what it is that we can do in the training sessions to really get them to that next level of play.
That is so stinking cool that because a lot of not just guys and girls, but a lot of trainers you'll see and they'll spew out, this is my program and these
Mhm.
are our, here's my 20 ball handling. And we do that for everybody. And what I love, what you're kind of saying is like, I'm not going to waste my time doing something that I know you're very good at. But if
Yeah.
there's something we need to work on, let's focus on that. And now again, four in the morning sounds awful. So what walk me through what's a typical day for BJ on a like so you're up at 4 watching film and then how does kind of the day matriculate?
So yeah, I'm up at 4 o'clock every single day, and really it kind of happened because once we had our twins, I was getting up anyway,
Yeah.
so I kind of just got into the schedule. But yeah, so I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning. I'm in my office downstairs in my basement around 4:15, 4:25, depending on the morning. But so the first thing I do is I check the emails for DFA. If there's video that one of my players sends me, I'll watch the video. I'll take notes. I'll do screenshots, and I'll do like the whole trainer draw arrows where they should have gone as opposed to where they went. Give them my feedback. Let them know what I saw they did well, what I think they can improve on, and then at that point, I'm usually creating the session plans for that day or for that player for a couple of days from now. But that's usually every single morning. And then with my camp coming up in the summer and trying to get all that stuff ready, there's a lot of phone calls during the day. There's a lot of emails going back and forth with sponsors or with college coaches. Quite a few calls with college coaches for players. So it's DFA really. I mean, it really starts at 4:15, 4:20 in the morning, and it'll go. I mean, it'll go till 4:30 in the afternoon, and I do have a day job also,
Ooh.
which I work from home, which is great because I do that full time from home. So it gives me that flexibility to do all this stuff. But yeah, DFA is definitely a passion for me, and I think that's why I really enjoy doing it so much, and that's why I don't mind getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Is there a part of you that at some point would like to have this DFA thing become big enough that you can bring on other coaches, that it becomes to branch out, and then it becomes like that's your main thing? So we don't have to do this day job and I can focus on my passion?
Um, yeah, I mean, there's always a dream to have it grow. Um, I'm very cautious about it, though, to be honest with you. I mean, DFA's been around for 10 years, and really in the last 3 years has it really kind of matriculated into this larger thing.
Mhm.
And really it's kind of in the last probably year and a half, it's kind of started creating its own self and its own identity. So I'm very, very cautious of the growth and not growing too fast, because it's in the end it's my name on it, and I want to make sure that it has a good reputation.
What
So do I want it to get bigger? Absolutely. But I'm going to be very cautious about how it gets bigger, and what direction it takes.
I think it's a great point. Like you said, like my name is directly on this brand. And the stuff that you've already mentioned, from watching film to communicating with parents to talking to college coaches to, like, it's beyond just that, hour session that I work with the player. It's
Mhm.
bigger than that. And I think you know as much as I do that if the numbers get too big, it's hard to give that same quality that you're giving now. So I completely, like, I get exactly what you're saying. Is like, maybe the numbers won't get bigger, but if I keep crushing it, the quality is going to be so stinking big that you're just going to keep getting quality players and just that
Yeah.
buy-in that it seems like you're getting now.
Yeah, and my whole thing with the players, and I'll be honest, I probably turn away 2 or 3 players a week, just mainly because of schedule. I don't have time, and I do have trainers that I trust and trainers that train for DFAs with the camps and everything that I'll hook them up with the trainers that I trust in the area, and they love all those trainers too. They do a really good job. For me, it's about one, the timing, because I have to have my family time. That's the most important thing to me. But two, it's for me, the players that I train, there's a certain mentality that I look for, honestly. I don't care how talented you are, but I want to make sure that you have that mentality of really wanting to develop and really wanting to be there and really wanting to be in a training session. I can't tell you how many emails I get from parents who say, well, my son is great. They're this and this and this. So when I talk to their player, it's, yeah, this sounds good. Yeah, we can do that. If that's what you want to do, we'll do it. What I'm looking for in a player is, yeah, let's do this. This is what I want to work on. Here's how I want to improve. This is where I want to be at next year, and this is what I think that we can do to get better. Because when I do my training sessions, I want to have complete buy-in from the player and the parent. A lot of the players that I train or emails that I get, I have a phone call with the parent and the player. I want to make sure that they're ready for the type of training that I'm going to give, and I make sure that they are completely bought into the training piece of this. And it's not going to be one of those things where, I mean, you're a coach, you go out and you get that win and it's a victory. Great. Well, this is a process, and I need them to understand that this is going to be a process. And if they don't have that mentality, I usually find another trainer that I think they'd be better off with.
The one thing that I'm hearing too is you talked about earlier about, like, that mentality thing is something you see kind of missing from a lot of soccer players. And it seems from your experience, you're able to, just from conversations, you can just feel the vibe, like it's maybe a gut feeling or something that, and I love the fact that you said when players come to me and say, here's what I need to work on, here's what I want to do. Those are the ones you're like, okay, you're hungry. And
Mhm.
those are the type of players I want to work with.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really it. And I think that's why I get so excited to watch their film and watch their games, is because they have that buy-in and that desire to truly get better. So what I do is I watch that game film to see if they're implementing what we work on. And a lot of times it's in there, and I'm excited to see that. And then from there, it's just tweaking little things, whether it's the way they're touching the ball or whether they're leaning into the ball whenever they make that first touch, or directional chest trapping to get away from the defender. So when I watch those game films from the players that send me their stuff, that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for. But I'm also looking for the positioning, the runs they're making. Are they delaying their run? Are they running far post and then cutting inside to meet the ball instead of waiting for the ball far post? So those are the things that I work on. And then what I do is I send my notes to the players. And a lot of times I challenge them. I said, okay, I want you to watch your next game film before I watch it, but I want you to watch it from a training standpoint. Tell me what you could do better, and tell me what runs you think you could do better, what space you can do, as opposed to just saying, oh, that was a great highlight, I can't wait to add that to my video. Because that's what most players do. They look
Yeah,
for
they
their
do.
highlights.
Yeah.
Well, tell me what you can do when you don't have the ball. That's what I want to know. And that's the mentality I try to get them to get into.
I absolutely love the fact that you're pushing so much ownership. Like, I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to push you, but I'm going to put ownership on you. Like, it's not just going to be me sitting there and, like you said, just saying congratulations on making a great play in there. But what could you have done, afterward or before, after you made that great pass? What were you doing
Yeah.
then to support the player with the ball? Type of thing. What kind of got you into the realm of coaching soccer in the first place? Was this like a passion you had growing up? Did you play and just fall in love with the game? Where did this all kind of spur from?
So when I grew up in Louisiana until I turned 11, and in Louisiana it was football and baseball, and that was it.
Mhm.
So when I played soccer, And when I say I played high level soccer in Louisiana, it was your neighborhood team playing against another neighborhood.
Okay.
I mean, that was high level soccer back then. I had no idea what club soccer was. I had no idea what, I didn't know what competitive soccer was till we moved up here in Cincinnati when I was 11. And I was so far behind the ball at that point that I had to go through rec for about a year and a half until I could start to kind of feel what it was like. Once I hit the competitive side of soccer, I fell in love with it. It was every day for me. And this is another thing I tell my players, those players who are in high school, those players who are able to drive to club practices, I said, coaches notice things. Like, coaches look for stuff. Whenever I was coaching, even in the high school, if I showed up 30 minutes early and I saw 2 players already out there playing or kicking around, working on things, those are 2 players that I'm looking at. Those are 2 players that I'm going to notice in the next practice. So for me growing up, it was always, okay, I played the 9 or striker in high school. And I remember my freshman year, my high school coach, he flat out said, you have a great personality. Everyone loves you, but your shooting is terrible. So he's like, I don't know how you play the number 9, but you're fast and I like it, but your shooting has to get better. And that was preseason my freshman year. And I kid you not, every practice for the next 4 years, I was there an hour early, and I stayed an hour later, worked on finishing, worked on my movement, because I knew that clearly I had to work on something. And that was one thing that I took upon myself to work on. And it paid off dividends for me because my coaches saw that. And, my high school coaches, I still keep in touch with them today, and that's over 20 years ago. They had such a massive influence, not on my game, but on me as a person. Mm-hmm. And they're really that experience is really what kind of catapulted me into the coaching realm. I went to college, played in college. I was lucky enough to get scouted at a tournament and got to go play overseas against like Spain and Germany when I was in high school. But for me, the catalyst was those 2 coaches that I had in high school that took it upon themselves to get to know me as the individual and the player, not just the player who could produce numbers. And that's really kind of how I do DFA is, I know the players, I know their parents. I get text messages from their parents, from the players also. I do calls with the players and the parents, once every 2 weeks or once a week just to catch up. And the calls might not even be about soccer. It's how's school going? How are you doing with this if there's something that's going on in their life? And to me, everything that I do and everything that DFA is, it's about coaching the person through the game of soccer. I can coach soccer anybody, but you have that coaching relationship where you can really make an impact on a person. And that's what I try to do with everything with DFA.
The cool thing is all of the things that you've shared with your conversations with parents, players, and that honesty, that coach, instead of just saying, look, you're a freshman and you've got potential and blah, 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 like he was straight up honest with you. He's like, look, you're really good at this, this, and this, your movement, you can get into dangerous places, but you are god awful at finishing.
Yep.
And I think the fact that he said, that's kind of like what you do with your players. You're like, look, here's what we just worked on, these 3 things. I'm going to watch your film and afterward, am I going to see that you actually are applying what we've been working on? Because those are the things that you need to get better at. And I love the fact that impact all the way back to your freshman of high school. And I love the fact too, that you're still in contact with them. So what kind of conversations do you still have with them? Or is it more of a just checking in to see how they're doing?
So a little bit of both, honestly. One of my coaches still lives here locally. They live just a few miles away from where my wife and I live. My other coach lives in Arizona now. And I'll get text messages occasionally, say, hey, how you doing? How's DFA? How are the kids? Or I just called both of them 2 weeks ago just to catch up, let them know how I was doing, ask how they were doing, let them know how the kids are doing, and let them know how DFA is doing and all this other stuff. Because they see the posts on social media. They like not all. They don't like all the training sessions. But they'll still shoot me some comments, say, hey, that was great. Have you thought about doing it this way? So they're still coaching me even to this day, but the way they're doing it now, it's it's helping me become an even better person than what they did 20 years ago. And that's truly my goal for the players that I have is I want to be that coach that they're going to reach out to in 10 or 15 years and say, hey, I know we don't talk all the time, but I want to let you know that you had a good impact on me, and this is what is going on in my life. I hope you're doing well. And that's really what I'm trying to accomplish with DFA and the players that I have.
It sounds so awesome. I love the fact that that kind of like idea was planted, that seed was planted
Mm-hmm.
at that time, that comment, which like you, as you know, some kids would have taken that and been like, well, he doesn't think I'm a good soccer player, so I'm
Yeah.
done. You, on the other hand, said, all right, I know I need to get better at, and clearly got after it. The other thing that I love that you keep bringing up is that you talk with the parents. And that is
Yeah.
clearly something in soccer, from coaching to being a director of coaching to a high school coach, to anybody that deals with soccer in some type of leadership role. What was your, why connect with the parents? And what was it like when you first started doing that? And what were some of the things that you loved from doing that experience?
So it really started when I started coaching club soccer. When I was coaching high school, there's almost like the separation that the school wants you to have. At least the school that I was at, they almost wanted you to have the separation from the personal lives of the players, where it's, we hired you to do a job, come and do this job. We'll take care of the kids because we teach the kids, we see them every day. And that was the vibe I got from the school. Not all schools are like that. I know some high school coaches have really great connections with their kids and their families. But when I got into club soccer, and I almost felt bad for it because I was taking a young team. They were seventh graders at the time. And I still keep in contact with these families and these players, even to this day, and they're graduating high school now. And I knew that I was a tough coach because I had already been training for a few years. So what I did is my very first day at tryouts, and I was nervous about it. And the club I was with was nervous about it also. But I gathered all the kids together in that age group, and this was 2004 late women, girls, 5 years ago now. And I laid it all on the line. It was the parents there and the players. I said, here's my expectations. You either meet it or exceed it. And your expectations for yourself better be higher than mine. If there's any doubts, feel free to walk away. No hard feelings. Thank you for coming. But that was the first day. That was before tryouts. And I had a piece of paper with all my expectations. It was, you show up 15 minutes early, you're stretched up and warmed up, and you're ready to go as soon as minute 0 hits. If you're late, then you're going to lose playing time the next game. There were expectations as far as what your curfew was going to be at a tournament. Like, as much fun as I had, and we made sure all the kids had fun, but you're not going to be up at 11 o'clock at night when we have a game at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I went as far as having like certain restaurants. I had one parent on the team pick 3 or 4 restaurants that we could go to as a team, because I didn't want kids going to McDonald's and having 2 shakes and chicken nuggets 2 hours before a game. You guys are paying for a high level team, for a high level coach. I'm going to give you a high level coach, and that's what the expectations are. Like I said, you guys are free to walk away or go to another team or a lower level team. It won't hurt my feelings, I promise you. But I made my expectations very clear from the very beginning. And I must have got emails from almost every single parent. Thank you so much for telling us that this is what this is going to be, because this is what we're looking for. And that's really what kind of opened up the pathway to have that communication, those relationships with those parents. I had a call with one of those 04 parents 2 weeks ago, and it was literally just, they wanted me to know what was going on with their kid. And that's the kind of stuff I love about being a coach and being a trainer, is that so few jobs give you the opportunity to have such an impact on so many people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure you see this day in and day out being a coach. Yeah. We have, I don't want to say responsibility, we have a gift to touch lives of so many players. And it boggles my mind when coaches don't take advantage of that.
one of the things that I keep getting the vibe from you is you're not only passionate and motivated, but you're super dedicated and really like straightforward about where did this like raw passion and stuff come from? Is it just something that you naturally got? Was it like, as you were brought up, like parents impact, or was it just like impact things like that, your coaches in high school and what have you? Because everything that you seem like a very straight shooter. Like whatever BJ says, that's what you're going to get. Here's my level. I'm not even going to fuzz it. I'm completely transparent. And if you're not good enough at something, I'm going to let you know, and what have you. And it's in the world that we live in now, it's so refreshing. Like for me, I'm like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Like this is the kind of stuff I love to hear versus like, oh, it's all right. You get like, you know what I mean? All the wishy-washy stuff. Um, what, where do you think this has come from? Is it just like have you always been this kind of like, oh, if you say I can't do it, I'm going to show you that I can.
So yeah, I've always had that mentality, absolutely, even from a young kid. But I will say, my parents, uh, and they're both heroes of mine. Both my parents are. Uh, my mom is a self-made woman. She's extremely passionate. She's very straightforward. She doesn't fuzz anything. She's not mean about it. Like, she's very nice about it. But she said, no, here's what it is, and this is what it's going to be. My dad is he's the one that always brought the I guess the emotional support type stuff. He was always there for me. He was, he was more of the emotional one, where my mom was always a straight shooter. Here's what it is. Here's your expectations. Don't ever lower your expectations for other people. So I got the best of both worlds. Um, on top of the mentality of, okay, you say I'm not good enough, but give me 6 months, and then I want you to tell me what you think. And I've been like that my entire life. If I do something, I'm going to do it 120%, no questions asked, no excuses. Um, I used to get I used to get in arguments with teammates of mine in high school and in college, and in club soccer, because when I showed up to train or to practice, it was okay. Let's practice. We can have fun and talk later, but right now I'm going at you 120%. Either get out the way, or go at me as well. And I'm not kidding. I used to frustrate my teammates so much because I didn't want slow days. I didn't want off days. I didn't want to have these, well, we played a game on Sunday, so let's not work too hard today. Like, no, no, that's not the way this is going to work. Like, you can go soft. I'm going to run right through you. You can go soft all you want. I'm not going to go soft. So I've always had that mentality. And I think that really translates to my training sessions. I even today with one of the college guys that I have, I was like, okay, listen. So he trains 4 days a week. So tomorrow is our fourth day for this week. Today was a little bit lighter. It was still game pace, a little bit lighter. And I told him today, as we were leaving the session, I was like, okay, so tomorrow, here's what we're going to work on. We've already hit these other 3 points this week. We're hitting the final point tomorrow on Thursday. We're going to go 1 minute on, 30 seconds rest, 1 minute on, 30 seconds rest, 1 minute on, 30 seconds rest, 1 minute on. I'll give you 1 minute rest, 1 minute on, 30-second rest, 1 minute on. And that's how the training session is going to be. He said, okay, sounds good. I'll be there. And for me, laying out what the expectations are from the very beginning, with these parents and players, with these phone calls, it makes things so much easier because they know what's going to happen at the training sessions. They know what we're going to work on. They send me their game film. I say, this is what I saw. This is what I think we can do. Here's how we're going to approach this. And I get that buy-in immediately. And if I don't get that buy-in, like I said, I know some really great trainers who I think could be a really good fit for. Let me give you their contact information.
Right
And
on.
I have no issues doing that. I really don't, because again, at the same time, the players have to like it, but I want to enjoy it also. And if I don't enjoy it, they're going to know about it. I'm going to know about it. And I want them to enjoy it too. And if their mentality is not there, they're not going to enjoy it.
What's the relationship between you and like high school coaches or some of these academy players you're working with or that college player, how have you been received in terms of working with them, like outside of their own training sessions they're doing with their teams?
So great question. Some coaches, high school coaches and club coaches, um, there's kind of mixed reviews, to be honest with you. Um, there's there's certain high school coaches who are a little apprehensive about their players coming to me for training, because they've heard how hard the training sessions are. They know that we go game pace. They know that I'm very honest with players. Um, they also know that I give homework to my players too. My players get homework every single week. Um, and a lot of coaches, not a lot, some coaches are a little apprehensive about their players coming to my sessions and then going to their training sessions, which I completely understand and I get. So what I do is I do reach out to a lot of the coaches that are coaching these players, and I talk to them, ask them what the coaches are seeing in their games, ask if they have certain things that they would like the players to work on also. So I try to build that camaraderie as well. With the college coaches, I've only had good conversations with college coaches about their players. So much so that a lot of the colleges are following the social media, the Instagrams. A lot of the coaches are like following the Facebook pages. Um, and I've had a lot of college coaches reach back out and say, hey, you're training so and so on my team. Do you have anybody else that's younger that we might be interested in taking a look at in the next couple of years?
Hmm.
So, and to me, that's fantastic because it almost solidifies the training that I'm providing with some of these players. Over the last 3 months, now that the elite camp for the summer is really kind of getting into it, everything, I've probably reached out. I've probably getting called or emailed by 20 something coaches asking if I have a player that would fit the certain criteria they're looking for. If I do, then I'll let them know and I'll tell them what I think about it. If I don't, then I'll be honest with them and say I don't, but here's someone who might. And I think that transparency and that honesty is really what has helped me out with these coaches.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing the whole way through is just your ability just to reach out and communicate has made connections that, you're not just so many just post like a video and you never know who this person is, but
Mhm.
now clearly and then I think the cool thing is I'm assuming by word of mouth is what's happening is why you're getting more and more interest is that when you work with this club player and they go back and people are like, man, what the heck? And they're like, yeah, I got a guy that doesn't let me go soft. As
Yeah.
you said earlier, I'm going after and like, dude, this you're making progress. Or like the college coach recognizes like that. And like you said, that's a huge thumbs up to you that whatever you're putting into place uh, is helping. And I think it all goes back to like I reach out to players, I reach out to the parents, I reach out to coaches. I'm like, if there's a high school, I reach out to them. Like I'm trying to help the player, I'm trying to help your program, and if I can be a help of that, I'm part of that, then that's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's a mentality that a lot of coaches and program directors miss is that, and a lot of trainers miss as well, is that they think that what they're providing is enough, and a lot of times it is. A lot of times it's not either, though. You know, being a coach of a program that had 18 kids, I mean, I had a team that had 21 kids on it at one point, and you cannot. I mean, you physically don't have time to provide that individual training or that individual attention to those players, and it's not your job as a team coach. Your job as a team or a program coach is to provide training for the entire team. That's what the goal is. You know, I think where a lot of the bigger issues come is that you have a coach or you have a trainer in the area or you have a director of some sort think that what they're providing is the best and that players don't need to go elsewhere. I know I'm not the best trainer in the area. I think I'm good at what I do,
Mhm.
but I know I'm not the best. And I think it's foolish for someone to say that they're the best. There's other trainers that are local you know, that I hear from my players that they're really good at one particular aspect. Well, that's not something that I focus on. So yeah, go see them, get training in that aspect, make your game better. And I think where the biggest issue is that people will just assume that, well, just come to me, I'll take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really the way it is. You know, I have a lot of players who come to me and then I'll say, hey, maybe you should go look at them for something else. Or, you know, you're growing a lot, you're hitting this growth spurt. Maybe you should think about or go look into getting personal training for weightlifting to know how to use your to move better now that you're hitting this 3 or 4 inch growth spurt. You know, go talk to them, see what they can do, see if it's something that you want to do. You know, the way I look at it is people come to me for a good, genuine service that's honest. And I think I'm doing them a disservice if I don't think that they could get another piece of their training someplace else to get it better. Because in the end, it's about the player. It's not about me. Like if I went down to 5 players a week, I'd be fine. If it's 5 players that really want to be there,
Right on.
you know, I really don't mind if my players go and transition to another trainer if they've gotten everything they can from me. Because what that tells me is that I've done as much as I can. Now go on to the next step. And then if you want to come back in the future, please come back. And I think that's where a lot of the issues lie, is that a lot of these programs and trainers think that they're the end all be all. Where reality is you're just a piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of pieces here. You're just a piece of the puzzle. Don't be selfish and don't be naive to think that you can put the entire puzzle together, because it's not possible.
I love that you just put all that together, because I think it clearly points out, because I think there is a clear, like, I'm the coach of a team, and then here's the trainers, and it's like there's no cohesion or connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there should be, because the issue
Mm-hmm.
I think we run into as well, at least for me, is I see with my players, I'm like, hey, when you're not here with me in this setting, you have to be kind of like you talked about, showing up an hour early and working on shooting or working on that. But I know for sure, if I ask a player, hey, if I asked you to go to the turf and play for an hour and a half, what things would you do? Most of them are looking at me like, I don't know. So that's where that's where you come into play. It's like, look, I'll take all that thinking out of. We'll identify what you need to work on, and then we'll do it. Because I think we sit there and go, well, look, I need you guys to be playing when you're not around here. Well, they don't know. Does that mean juggle, or what? When I'm supposed to play the ball off
Yeah.
the wall? Like, what do I do to get better? Especially like, I'm not a good shooter, so is it a technique? Is it what can I do? And you can YouTube things and whatever, but still, it's not the same as having someone there. And I love the idea that there's multiple pieces to the puzzle of a player's development. Um, and so that I just love the whole idea of, like, I'm not here. And the other thing, and then I'll let you go or fill in, is you have this kind of self-awareness. Like you even said, like, yeah, that trainer's really good at that. That's not really something I'm 100% rocking with. I do these things really well. So if that's who you need to go to, then go to. I think that's spot on, because even as coaches, like some coaches are defensive coaches in terms of tactics, more attacking, whatever. So I just love the way you explained it. It just made like complete sense to me.
Yeah, well, well, I'm glad. You never know if what I'm saying is going to be, taken well. But yeah, and honestly, I think with the club realm and the high school realm, because I know when I was coaching high school, you have budget issues, right? You can't get the staff that you always want to have because there's budget issues. And with club soccer, there's a ton of moving parts in clubs. I've been with a club from the ground up, and I've been with an established club for a while, so I've kind of seen both. And I genuinely think one thing missing from every club, every organization across the board, is everyone has the IDPs, the individual development plans for players, but there's no implementation. And someone who's been around coaching for a while and has done the personal training for over a decade, if there was a club, if there was an organization that could have a technical or training director over the IDPs and have a staff of 3 or 4, so you have a team training twice a week, and then the third day of the week you have small group training, you have individual training or two-on-one training to really work on the technical piece of that game, I think, in my opinion, you would have an explosion of talent and development within that club. But the way that it's worked out is, here's your IDP, go home and work on it. Right. And I think a lot of the apps are great. I love a lot of the apps that are out now. You have the Technique app, you have the Beast Mode app. That's all fantastic stuff. But to have someone who's there physically with you 1 day a week, to can go over what's good, what's bad, what you need to improve on a individual or a small group level, I think, to me, then you would literally see development in the city of Cincinnati and the area explode, because I really think that organizations are missing that piece.
I think it's cool, the idea that, like, you talk about different pieces of the puzzle for development. And I love the idea, like, if we could merge that into one kind of
Mhm.
entity, would be huge. The other thing that you've brought up is, it's your training, it's more than just the soccer side. There's the communication with the parents and the constantly checking film and all that type of stuff, which I think is another thing. If you were to be able to, like, merge something like DFA into some type of club setting,
Mhm.
then they're constantly getting feedback from you on those types of things as well, that maybe they can't get from their director of coaching or their actual club coach. You're bringing that another dynamic and thing into it, which I think, like, people look at the training and, like, the apps, like you said, I think are cool, but like you said, you're missing the constant feedback right then of, yeah, it's great that you got 45 juggles, but whatever, you use the same foot for 38 of them, let's try to work
Yeah.
on your left foot, or your weaker foot, or whatever, like those little things, um, that you get to see, and the expectations of, well, that was, like, I'm sure if you saw a kid do 80, you're like, dude, I was expecting 100. So
Yeah.
the bar keeps getting raised up,
Yeah.
um, type of thing. And I think you get that from those. And I can tell you're kind of a relationship person who's
Mhm.
constantly kind of just, I just love to communicate and figure out where people are feeling and all that type of stuff. The other thing you brought up, twins. So how old are the twins?
So they're just over 2 years old.
And
So
so how does becoming a parent, how has that changed maybe a little bit of how you deal with training and what have you?
it's a great question. And just to add on to the story, when my wife and I became parents, we had our twins, and we also adopted two within like 3 months of each other.
So there's
So
four.
yeah, so we have two older girls who were sisters that we adopted,
Oh, wow.
and so we're foster parents, and so the girls came up for adoption. We had known them for a few years. We were asked if we consider being the adopted parents, and we were so in love with the girls already. It was the absolute yes. And then 2 weeks later, we found out that we were pregnant with twins.
Oh, my.
So the adoption process and the birth of our twins literally happened within just a couple months of each other. So it was going from 0 to just the two of us to six of us. It definitely changed a dynamic in the training. Um, I'm definitely a lot more honed in on to how kids are feeling.
Hmm.
I tend to notice things a little bit more, like the body movements, or the emotions on the face and that kind of stuff. So I can talk to them a little bit more on a deeper level than I was able to before, just because I can notice those things a lot easier now. Um, so I think it's definitely helped from the personal side of the training sessions. It definitely hasn't made my training easier, but it's definitely helped me with understanding and seeing that those connection pieces with those players that I wasn't seeing necessarily before, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I really love just the body language, the posture, just the,
Mhm.
like, the pouty face, or just a quick kind of, like, non-verbal kind of cue that I'm kind of not in the mood for whatever. Has have they broken the kind of competitive, like, hardcore thing? Do they melt your heart and kind of make you kind of a cuddly bear kind of person?
To them, they do, yes. And to my players, they do. I don't like to admit it, but they do.
Oh,
One of the ongoing jokes that I have with a lot of my players is, um, I love you, but I'll never admit it. You know, it's one of those things where it's one of those things where a lot of these kids and families I have great relationships with. You know, I get invited to Christmas parties. I get invited, my family does. We get invited to Christmas parties, birthday parties, graduation ceremonies. You know, obviously COVID has stopped all that.
mhm.
Um, but it's one of those things where like I'll just send a text to a player of mine who may have posted something on social media that kind of gets you thinking a little bit like something's going on there. So I'll just send a text to them and say, hey, just want to let you know that I think you're awesome. Right. And it's that kind of stuff, having the kids has kind of brought that out of me a little bit more, is just being more cognizant of, you know, what I'm seeing my players go through. I mean, COVID has had an effect across the board on people in a whole lot of ways. So, you know, if I see somebody, if I see one of my players posting on social media that kind of, you know, raises my eyebrow a little bit, I'll just shoot them a text, say, hey, everything okay? Just want to let you know that you're awesome. And I can't wait to see you in 3 days of training. So having the kids has definitely kind of made me more cognizant and more aware of that kind of stuff. Um, and I love getting the text messages back. Thank you. You don't know how much that means to me. I really appreciate it. You know, and that's it. That's all it was. It was 20 seconds, right? But just that one little thing, that one little text, or that one little message could change some kids' day, week. It maybe just changes them for an hour, but it's something, right?
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the coaching piece, and you being a coach, me being a coach, you know, having that ability and that gift to have such an impact on kids. You know, you look at social media these days, there's not a whole lot of positive role models in social
No.
media, right?
Nope.
You know, so why can't coaches fill that gap and be that positive role model? And to me, that's what coaching is all about. I don't care if I teach a kid to become a great striker or a great defender. What I care about is helping that kid get through something and become a better person 10 years down the road. Because to me, that's what it's all about.
Right on. I think it's so cool, like the self-awareness piece for you, like the kind of recognize that your little ones have caused you to kind of take a moment of reading their how they're doing, and then I'm sure in those moments, like, okay, I got to do something to kind of cheer them up, or like maybe I need to get them a snack or whatever it is. And that's, you know, at a similar scale when you're dealing with older ones, you can't just get them a whatever a snack real quick, but similar things of just some positive kind of feedback and encouragement. The other thing with the parent side, which I wanted to know is you kind of talked about, I know when a kid's not locked in, and I'm like, I don't think you're going to fit with how I do. Is there something you see in the parents as well? Is there like, do you see us, or maybe you, for this type of player that you have, do they have a certain type of parent? If that make any sense? Or they,
Uh, so I can't say there's a certain type of parent. What I will say this is the players that I train, the parents that they have, let them make the decisions. So it's the parents that of the kids that I train aren't saying you have to go to training session this week, you have to do this and this and this. The parents of the players that I train are very much, okay, you know what you want to achieve. I'm here to help you get there. What can I do? If you think you've gone too much this week, that's fine. We'll take a day off. If you want to go again extra this week, you can. So a lot of the parents that I have let their kids drive the car on this training piece. I don't have any parents that are saying, hey, you have to be here at this time because I'm paying for it. I don't have any parents like that. And I think that goes to show that, you know, a lot of those parents who are, you know, those helicopter type parents, you know, a lot of them push their kids to a point where the kids don't want to do that stuff anymore. And I've had players like that on my teams before where their parents are driving them literally into the ground. You have to do this. You've got to get, you know, 3,000 touches a day, you know, all this and that. And, you know, what I like about the majority of the players that I train is that they do that stuff on their own without their parents making them do that, because they genuinely enjoy the game of soccer. They genuinely enjoy the act of getting better. And that's one of the things that like I said, I really look for in a player. But for the most part, the parents that I have, it's they let their kids drive their own development. And I think part of that is because they have those kids who want to drive that development also. But I don't think I have any parents that I would say are helicopter or they push too hard. What I will say with the parents that I have, that they reach out to me, they'll text me, they'll call me. I've had parents call me and say, "Hey, so and so is having a rough time with this particular piece of their team, whether it's a coach, a player, teammate, or whether it's just school," and they say, they really look up to you. Would you mind just reaching out to them? And that's why I like having those relationships with those parents, because if I didn't have that relationship with that parent, I wouldn't know that stuff about the players. So that's why it's so important for me to have them as a player, but have them as a person and have their family also.
I think the cool thing too is, as I know from experience, is sometimes getting some input from someone who's not directly in the mix. You can get more of an honest kind of like, so you're
Mhm.
not there for the team chemistry or whatever's going on with the coach or whatever. So when you hear of it, you can give your input of like, look, I'm not there, but here's my take. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of a fresh thing. I think that's awesome that the parents have you to lean on, and the players as well. And I love the fact that almost the players that you want to work with are those high, like, I'm locked in, I'm here for me, I want to get better kind of players, is what it sounds like. So those
Mhm.
parents, like, they don't have a choice. Like, I'm going to go to training, I'm going to
Yeah.
do my thing, I'm going to work with BJ and all that type of stuff, and what have you. Uh, BJ, this has been so stinking cool. I love the foster. How old are, so that you have the 2-year-old twins? How old are the two that you are foster caring?
11 and 9. So they came to us a couple years ago, but they are 11 and 9 right now. They don't do soccer.
I was going to
They
say, is there anything where BJ is going to be coaching them at some point?
not them. The two older ones are very, very good at gymnastics. They're very competitive as well. Um, I want to make sure that they do what they want to do. So they do gymnastics, they do dance, they do cheerleading. Um, and we go to their games. We go. I'm the cheer dad. I have the cheer dad T-shirts on when I go and watch them. I'm not afraid to wear it out in public. Uh, so we really just try to encourage them just to follow what their passions are right now. Um, the
What-
two younger, the twins, they and I don't know if it's just because they see me always with the ball at my feet. I mean, I'm always juggling something,
yeah.
whether it's a cup on the ground or whether it's a teddy bear that's on the ground. I'll juggle it. But so the twins are, they know how to say soccer ball. We have a lot of soccer balls at the house. So there's usually one around. So they'll kick it, and our little boy Gavin, he'll run and kick and he'll go, "Yay!"
Aw.
And Grace does the same thing. So it's a lot of fun having all the kids around, and the older girls absolutely love the twins, and the twins love the older girls. So it's been really, really great.
That's awesome. It seems it's so cool to kind of hear the different, because you even talked about earlier, which I thought was a great point, of everything is a piece of the player's development, and then hearing the story of like the foster, and then getting having twins, and then being born so close to when you got them all into the house, which I can't even imagine going from, you're like, it's just you and me, babe, and it's nice and quiet, and all of a sudden we got four, and they're not the same age, so we got two little ones, and then
Mhm.
the other ones which are a few years older. That's so cool. And I love the fact that you said, even about the gymnastics, about the girls and the dancing and stuff, that they're competitive, like they're into it as well. So I think
Yeah.
I can just, I'm trying to picture what you look like on the side watching this. Are you very intense, or are you kind of like, okay, this is, I don't know anything about
So
gymnastics, I'm a chill?
okay, so I do have a pretty good story. So my wife's a superhero, by the way. She's phenomenal. She she's a stay-at-home, and she handles, I mean, she runs the household. So all kudos to the kids go to her. Um, but my wife was a competitive gymnast. I mean, she was 7 days a week, 4 to 5 hours a day gymnast. So she was really training at a very, very high level. So we're both very competitive. And even in our card games, we'll play rummy and it's, oh, I'm beating you by 230. And then, I'll lose. And she's like, well, I came back and destroyed you, So the kids see that, the fun conversations and like the joking we have. And it definitely transitions and translates to them because they kind of carry that into their gymnastics and they carry that into their dance. And, when Mariah's doing her gymnastics, it's, okay, well, I need to work on this, this, and this. I have it within 2 weeks. I promise you I'll have it within 2 weeks. And sure enough, she's backflipping in 2 weeks, and then Aubrey, who's the performer, right? So she loves to dance. She loves to kind of be in front of everybody. She's hitting her poses. She's hitting her strikes. She's got the faces doing crazy things, but they definitely see the mentality that my wife and I have. And, and the way that we tell the kids is, with Mariah and Aubrey, like, we want you guys to have, the most important thing is having fun. If you're not having fun, then let's not do this. But if you are having fun, give it 110% every single time. And that's kind of the mentality that we've always had, as long as we've been together, my wife and I. And so it definitely transitions and translates to the kids, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
The thing that I have loved about everything that you have shared, from your own training to like your experience in high school to parenting, like everything is, you can just see it on your face. Like it just bubbles through. It's like, you love it all. You're passionate about it. I think it's awesome to think that your wife, which, I have 3 kids as well. And the wife piece of things, they don't get enough credit. Like you said, like kudos to both of them. And to stay at home and stuff, that's just such an awesome opportunity and what have you. So I just, everything has been so stinking cool. And the one thing that's really cool too is it's consistent across the board. It's not like, well, you're going to get BJ the trainer and then BJ, like, it seems like you're all in. You're constantly like evaluating situations with, if it's a player, a parent, a college coach, oh, it's my own kid. I'm constantly looking for what things are going well and what can I do to help and support and what have you. BJ, this has been so stinking cool. And I know you're all over social. So I'm going to ask, like, what are some ways that people can connect with you and find, you've mentioned your summer camp that's coming up, and like, how can people find out about that, connect with you, and all those great things?
So, I mean, I'm on Instagram, Durel Football Academy is on Instagram, and Durel Football Academy is on Facebook as well. There's a Twitter handle as well. I mean, they can go to my website, which is just durelfootball.com. There's information on there. I have all the other trainers that train for DFA are on there also, so people can kind of get to know who everybody is. And honestly, I mean, my phone number and email are available on all those things. I'll take calls to anybody. I really don't mind. And honestly, I prefer to take a phone call than an email, because I think that there's a lot more that could be accomplished that way. I know that's weird for younger kids to hear, but I like phone calls still. But yeah, I mean, the standard social medias, I'm there. As far as the camps go, there's a lot of things kind of in the fire right now for the future of DFA, the camps. Now that DFA is powered by Nike and all that other stuff, there's a lot of things that are kind of brewing. So there's going to be a lot of things coming up in the future that I think are really beneficial for the kids. And and one other thing that I don't think is really out there yet, I am working with Beach Acres Parenting Center, which is who's our foster agency, and we are going to be doing a fundraiser later this summer. It's a soccer golf fundraiser to raise money for foster kids, the foster parents, for educational purposes, and to allow kids to have opportunities that they may not get. That I don't want to say regular, but that other kids not get. So we are going to do that later this summer as well.
The cool thing is that you don't just talk the talk, you like walk the walk. Like, look, we're actual foster parents, and now we want to go back and keep supporting and giving and bringing awareness to the opportunities that are maybe missed for a number of those. So I think so cool. And I will, in the notes, put all of his connections, his website. When he starts sharing the stuff about the soccer golf outing and whatever, I'll put that out there as well. So if people want to, you want to be a part of it, or even donate money toward it or whatever, I think it's an awesome idea, and what have you. I'm gonna wrap this thing up. This is Karen Coach's Corner Chat with BJ Durel, and I'm out. Peace.